What's up guys, Deacon from Yakuza Fan here. Lots of great comments on the last video about what could be next for the Yakuza series. If you didn't get a chance to watch it yet, I'll put a link in the description below so you can go check it out. One of the most common suggestions is that the series should head overseas, expanding the playground for the next chapter by giving our protagonists the ability to go between Tokyo and, since everyone wants them to visit their own country, pretty much anywhere else in the world. Would letting our hero travel overseas work, or does the series only exist because of its deeply rooted home in Japan? Let's discuss. Is it time Yakuza went international? The Yakuza series has always been firmly grounded in Japan, and for good reason. For those of you that have watched our Forging the Dragon series, it's obvious the only reason the game struck a chord with its home country was because of the team's choice to stake everything on setting the game in their home country. It's not just the country that resonates with the audience, it's the setting of Tokyo's Kabukicho red light district, Kamurocho. The stigma attached to the area, especially in the early 2000s when Yakuza first hit the market, was one of a dangerous powder keg of Yakuza, race wars, and fetishes, where a turn down a wrong alley could lead to a run-in with one of the many crime families that operated in the area. Real-life Kabukicho was the setting for some of the largest organized crime family drama to happen in Japan's history, so the setting naturally fit. Kabukicho is well known in Japan as that place where the crimes happen. It's an immediate connection for the game's intended audience, and let's face it, one of the biggest draws for us otaku nerds is getting to play around on the mean streets of Tokyo. Yakuza 5 dared step outside the normal setting with its 2-year development cycle and 5 new cities. It's still the biggest game in the saga with the most varied amount of stuff to do. None of the new locations are particularly dangerous like Kamurocho, but each feel unique and well defined. Since Japan is an island, it's surprisingly easy to get from one end to the other. If you took the bullet train, you'd be able to hit all 5 of Yakuza 5's locations in about 2 days, as long as you only spend about an hour in each. This accessibility lends the team easy access to each location for research into local customs and architecture. Using existing cities gives the team more time to flesh them out and fill them with things that make them memorable. Instead of starting from scratch, the design team can pull landmarks and real-world locations, speeding up the entire creation process. Charging the team with recreating a Western city without that accessibility or that influence would make the entire process take longer and lack the same heart. Getting that authentic flavor is something that I feel like only someone that's lived there can draw out. Visiting a Western city and drawing inspiration from photos and video is one thing, but living in a place and being immersed in that society lets the team draw from their own lives. Seeing underneath the tourist traps to the more personal side of the city where the real drama takes place. Now, this may sound a little strange, but one of the things the Yakuza series does right is the product tie-ins. It may not be so obvious to everyone that's not deeply involved with the series, but there's so many you probably don't even realize what's a tie-in and what's just put there by the dev team. These games cost an insane amount to make, and the way they end up recouping their costs isn't just the sales. Every time a new game is pitched, the team gets to work on finding which companies to partner with and include it in the game world. You've probably noticed the obvious ones that have been with the series since forever, like the Don Quixote and Suntory products. Even smaller companies and family businesses get the chance to be featured in the series. Seriously, take a look at the credits scrolling by right now for the list of tie-in companies in Yakuza 5. It's insane. These are strong Japanese brand names that make sense in the world. They're not just meaningless decoration. While these games may seem niche to us, in Japan, Ryuga is a mainstream game, so being featured in it is an amazing opportunity. Both Sega and the gaming press sites write an article every time a new tie-in is announced. Nagoshi wears the product or visits the store to promote it, and it's normal. People welcome the advertisements because it's adding realism to the world, and seeing a little part of your city in the game is actually pretty cool. Now, let's try and think of this game set outside Japan. What companies do you think would consider partnering with a comparatively small RPG brawler that no one outside of an arguably small fanbase really knows about? And yes, I'm including the strong sales of Yakuza 0 in that. Yakuza will always be niche. Either they throw the realism of the city out by placing adverts for Japanese products in the international cities, or they get local advertisers which wouldn't really have a place amongst, again, the core audience. Yakuza 6 attempted to get a country-exclusive tie-in, eventually bringing Blue Gold beer exclusively to the Hong Kong version. They secured the cross-promotional rights to a single beer. Okay, I know I've been pretty negative on this so far, so here's one thing I'd actually love to see. Taking the Protag out of his element. Not just the language barrier, which I'm sure would get the typical anime treatment of everyone speaking Japanese like it's the world's first language, but the weird situations you could put them in. Some of the strongest sub-stories in the series have been Kiryu not understanding the culture of foreigners, and one misunderstanding leading to trouble. Yakuza does its best when it's setting up character tropes and being goofy, so why not have it go the other way? Doing a complete fish out of water story with the Protag getting involved with some of the weirder international cultural tropes. It's the perfect opportunity to bring back some of the other characters in more of their element. Show Max photography in the US, Saigo's training abroad, find Nair or Karu, and help them out in whatever mission they happen to be part of. Maybe for once bring the fight to the Chinese mafia, but on the way learn that they're just as goofy as the residents of Kamurocho. Stepping outside of Japan as the main setting for the next game is a gamble I don't think Sega would be willing to take, just yet. Just looking at the sales numbers, while it's been getting better outside of its homeland in the last few years, especially in other Asian markets like China and South Korea, setting the whole game there could ruin the whole iterative design thing they've got going on. What I'd like to see is maybe a combination of both, an East vs West story, maybe two different playable characters that need to visit each other's homeland and learn the intricacies of the culture before eventually having a face-off. I definitely see the appeal of an international Yakuza title. Having any game set in my home city is something I've been screaming for since I played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 on the PS1. But realistically, do I think we'll ever see it? I don't see it happening, not while the Japanese market continues to sell nearly triple the West on each release. There's no real reason to change the focus of the game, but I'll never say never. With the success of Yakuza 0 in the West, Sega is finally seeing the game succeed over here. In the other Asian markets, the popularity of the series has seen the latest entries releasing at the same time as the Japanese version. Even Yakuza 0 had a character that was different for its international Asian release, having the part of Lao Guy played by Sam Lee, which, let's be honest, is better than the dumb-looking Frankenstein the rest of us got. After the series started succeeding more overseas, Yakuza 6 was also changed in order to add in more international and mixed-race characters for the Asian market appeal. It's not unheard of, and Sega seems to have learned how to follow the money. A far cry from 2 years ago when Nagoshi seemed genuinely shocked that Western fans actually wanted the game. So now I'd like to hear from you guys. Anywhere special you think would make for an interesting location? My Google Maps is open and ready to search, so let me know in the comments where, if you got your wish, you'd want to see the next game take place. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.